This is a good one. This is going to be one of our clips. So start clip.
Okay.
All right. Learning theory. What is learning theory? Because I would literally bet you that 7.865 out of 10 trainers cannot successfully articulate what learning theory is, and that's a problem. Right? This is getting back into the conversation about new trainers not learning the things they need to learn. So this is for the new trainers. This is for the old trainers that don't know this stuff. This is for the people that just want to know.
Yeah.
The people that want to know.
The 7.685.
The 7.685. All right. Learning theory is positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, negative punishment. Okay. Those are the 4 quadrants of learning theory. That means those are the 4 different types of ways that any person, mammal, whatever, can learn.
Okay.
So let's break them down. So let's first say that you have positive and you have negative, and then you have reinforcement and you have punishment.
All right.
Positive means that you are always adding something to the equation, right? So whatever you are doing, you are adding something, right? Negative means you are taking something away. Reinforcement means you are increasing the likelihood of a behavior. Punishment means you are decreasing the likelihood of a behavior. So now let's start combining. What is positive reinforcement, Josh?
You're giving treats and love.
You're adding something to the equation.
Adding something to the equation.
Increase the likelihood of a behavior.
Okay.
What is negative reinforcement?
You're taking something away.
Removing something from the equation to decrease the likelihood of a behavior, right?
Man.
So positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement. Positive punishment. You are adding something to the equation to decrease the... I lose my train of thought for a second. See, I'm getting all hyped up right now. You're adding something to the equation to decrease the likelihood of a behavior. Negative punishment. You're removing something from the equation to decrease the likelihood of a behavior. So let's break these down now. Positive reinforcement. I'm giving the dog a cookie when they sit to increase the likelihood that they will sit.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
Negative reinforcement. I am removing pressure on a leash or on an e-collar to increase the likelihood of a behavior, right? So in that case, that could be, okay, I hold down stimulation on the e-collar, I move the dog onto the bed, I release the stimulation when they get onto the bed. That release of pressure should elicit a positive response and let the dog know whatever you're doing right now is correct, right? So it's increasing the likelihood of them getting onto that bed. Positive punishment. The dog jumps on me. I give a high-level correction on the e-collar and tap the button one time, and the dog gets off, right? So I'm adding a correction to decrease the likelihood of the jumping. They learn when they jump, something bad happens. You touch the stove, it burns you, you realize, ouch, I don't like that.
Yeah.
Negative punishment. This is the one that people don't typically understand very well, right?
Okay.
You're removing something from the equation to decrease the likelihood of a behavior. So say I'm doing food training with a dog, right? I'm giving them treats for sitting. Dog jumps on me. I stop giving them treats, right? Okay. I'm removing something from the equation so that they realize that jumping on me is no longer getting me rewarded, right? So it decreases the likelihood of that. Then they sit back down. I start giving them treats again, right? So understanding all of these things is the first step, because this has nothing to do with the e-collar, because you could just apply the e-collar to any number of these different ways. 2 of them specifically we'll address in a minute here. But you have to understand the learning theory of anything that you're doing with dogs. You could do it with a leash, right? I apply pressure on the leash, dog sits down, I release pressure. I'm using negative reinforcement in order to increase the likelihood of the sitting, right? Dog jumps on you. I tell them no, I pop the leash really hard, right? I used positive punishment in order to decrease the likelihood of the jumping, right? Again, dog sits down, I tell them good and give them a treat. I'm using positive reinforcement in order to increase the likelihood of the sitting, right? Dog jumps on me, I take the treats away, they sit back down, I give it back to them. I'm using the removal of the food to decrease the likelihood of the jumping, right? So anything you're doing, you have to fit into those categories. So now we'll implement the e-collar use into those things. Catch my breath. So implementing the science of the e-collar into it, the e-collar can only be used in one of two ways: positive punishment or negative reinforcement. And these are the two that typically positive-only trainers say they don't work, right? Well, they do work because it's learning theory. It's science-backed. It fucking works, right?
Yeah.
What they're implying when they say it doesn't work is they're saying that the other two are more effective, right? Which, listen, there are scientific articles and studies out there that show that a dog, obviously, that is very motivated by something, positive reinforcement will get the point across faster, which I would agree with, right? We obviously want to reinforce and teach everything as positively as possible, because if you can get the dog motivated to do it, they're going to be more likely to do it for you in the long run, right?
Yeah.
But no matter what, there are outside reinforcers that no matter what, there's going to be other things your dog is more motivated to do, which is where you need to implement those other two ways, right? So whatever. So positive punishment with the e-collar is when we're using a single tap correction with it. So the dog does something incorrect and we give a correction to decrease the likelihood of the incorrect choice. That could be a behavioral issue like jumping, barking, biting, or it could be non-compliance of a known command. I tell the dog sit, the dog knows how to sit and chooses to blow me off, and I give a high correction for blowing me off. I'm decreasing the likelihood of blowing me off in that case, right? The other way is negative reinforcement, which is we're typically teaching stages, right? So we're teaching a behavior. I'm holding a button down, releasing the button when the dog does a certain thing to show the dog what that stimulation means, right? And to increase the likelihood of the dog doing that thing. So in our e-collar system, we always use it in the order of negative reinforcement first, positive punishment second, right? So I'm going to spend the time teaching that stimulation at a low level with every single command using negative reinforcement, right? Getting onto the bed, getting into the sit, getting into the heel position, coming to me, any of those types of things. Once the dog shows a clear understanding of both the command as well as that stimulation and the off switch for that stimulation with that command, then I switch to positive punishment, where I'm just using that stimulation the dog understands now at a higher level for non-compliance of a known command. End clip.